Hi, Crime Junkie jury. I'm Lauren Conlin, and this is your daily Diddy Digest. We are on day 27 of the United States versus Sean Combs, and we had a half day today in court. And I want to go over some scheduling things really quick right off the bat. The government will be done with their case 95% chance end of day on Monday. And the defense actually surprised us all when they said that their case in chief will most likely only take 1 to 2 days. So the defense could rest by Wednesday afternoon, and then closing arguments could be done Thursday or Friday. And that is huge. I mean, that would be amazing. But I won't take it conclusively just because things happen and you never know. But right off the bat, again, Diddy, this is just a side note. I don't know if maybe he was nervous, but he took a few more bathroom breaks today. And the jurors, they were interested, I think, in the witness, Brendan Paul, the first half of the morning, and they got a little bit bored towards the second half of the morning for the interview with the HSI special agent. But Brendan Paul, first witness of the day and second to last witness for the government, he was basically dubbed by the media in 2024 as Diddy's quote unquote drug mule. This could not be further from the truth here. Brendan Paul was arrested in March of 2024 at a Miami airport with a very small amount of cocaine on him that it turns out it was because he was cleaning a room, one of Diddy's rooms, and he just found it and he took it with him. And when he was at the airport, he forgot. And yes, he was caught by the police, arrested, and he ended up telling us that the charges were dropped because he had a really good lawyer, and he has not seen or spoken to Diddy since March 25th, 2024, this arrest. And he also said that he did not snitch on Diddy. He didn't say whose it was to the police. He didn't say anything about that. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to sort of combine the direct and the cross, the information regarding Brendan Paul. I think that'll be a little bit easier to follow here. But Brendan Paul worked for Diddy for 18 months. He was 23 when he started the position, pretty much right out of college. And he was this really, or is this intelligent college basketball player. He was a walk-on for Syracuse. He even played in an NCAA tournament in 2019. So he also said that Eli Marone, the assistant that worked with him, told him right off the bat, he said with him, get in, get out, and break up with your girlfriend, and you'll never see your family, when he started working for Diddy. And, that kind of meant this rigorous work schedule. But he testified that he worked between 80 and 100 hours a week, and he was paid a starting salary at $75K, and then he made it up to $100K. And he did testify at one point that he was awake for 3 days straight with some naps in between. But during the cross-examination, it was clarified that they were working on Diddy's album Love in 2023. And pretty much the whole team, including Diddy, was really staying awake trying to get this done. And Brendan Paul testified to Brian Steele, who did the cross, that it was kind of exhilarating. And it's not that he wanted to stay awake, but he wanted to prove his loyalty and be a part of the team. And he also said, Brendan Paul said, that it didn't affect him that much because he was still young. The government made sure to ask Brendan Paul about KK. How much communication did he have with KK? I think they're really trying to plug her in wherever they can as this alleged co-conspirator. And let's see. Oh, he talked about his duties, and he had a lot of mundane duties like suitcase packing, organization. He said that he packed some joints for Diddy, but this is legal in California, and he did a lot of this at his LA home. But he did say that he did do some errands for him that included getting drugs. So he mentioned these drug dealers like Guido and One Stop and Baby Girl. And it was clarified, though, the amount of drugs he got for him really were only between $100 and $500 worth. And he said that he did this between 5 and 10 times over the course of 18 months. He very rarely set up for these quote unquote hotel stays or these wild king nights. He said he did do it a bunch of times, but it wasn't necessarily something that he did all the time. He talked about wearing gloves for the cleanup, and it was, yeah, I think the prosecutor was like, "Why did you do this? Wear gloves?" And he's like, to be sanitary." And he the I think it was, yes, it was Brian Steele had asked him if he communicated with Jane after these hotel nights, and he said yes. And he said, Brian Steele said, "Well, did Jane seem upset after? Did she seem like she didn't want to do it? Was she regretful? Was she just, not herself type of thing?" And Brendan Paul's answer was absolutely not, meaning she was totally fine. What else? He testified that Diddy had him do drugs once in front of him, and he wanted him to test out this K2 drug, which is like Molly and ketamine. And Brennan Paul said he did it. He just took a little bit of it, but it didn't really bother him because he wanted to prove his loyalty to Diddy. And this was after, I guess, after Coachella. He also, let's see, he testified picking up prescription drugs for Diddy and also trying to get prescriptions for Diddy, not through a doctor. He testified that they would have text threads with assistants and KK. And there was like this one notes section where KK had written out Diddy's schedule. It was just kind of, I don't know. It was interesting to read that he had to celebrate Jane's birthday and go XYZ with Jane, and then 3 days later it was like, "Hey, trip with Young Miami planned to Turks and Caicos." So never a dull moment for that guy, apparently. What else? Yeah, we heard about or we saw a picture that Brendan Paul took of Baby Oil and Astroglide appearing to be very organized on a shelf. And he took this picture for another assistant so he could show him how to organize things, how they needed to be organized. And yeah, we saw a picture of a hotel after a freak off, which was, I don't want to say it was underwhelming, but I think a lot of us thought it would be a lot worse. It was like sheets covering the furniture, nothing too crazy, a couple things on the ground. And that was pretty much it for the direct by U.S. Attorney Slavic. And then Brian Steele's cross, I kind of already mentioned some of it, but he really wanted to point out that Brendan Paul was an impressive guy who would not be working for an alleged criminal. And Brendan Paul said no. And he said, "Well, did you think that there was any criminal activity going on in these hotel rooms for these Wild King nights?" And Brendan Paul said no, but there was some objections here and there. But Brendan Paul said that he thought that it was just personal time for Diddy to be with his significant other and blow off some steam. Oh, and during the during the direct examination, Brendan Paul did testify that once he had to get cash from security to bring to Diddy at a hotel night, about $5,000. Just throwing that out there, and you'll need that for the redirect really quick. So yeah, so Brian Steele was just like, so you worked for him 18 months. You got drugs for him between 5 and 10 times under $500. You were lucky to work for him. You felt lucky because he gave you all these opportunities, and Brendan Paul agreed to most of it. Again, the hesitation about Jane, was she hesitant? He said no. You never thought that you never thought that King Nights are criminal. No. Well, during the redirect, Slavic asked him, "Well, what did you think this money was for?" Objection. And then she said, "Well, had you ever brought him cash for any other events or during any other times?" And Brendan Paul said no. Yeah, that was pretty much it. And then the redirect ended with Slavic asking him, "How do you feel about Mr. Combs today?" And he said, "It's complicated." He walked off the stand. Diddy didn't really even look at him at all. And that was that. And then we got some text messages that were put into evidence, just standalone text between Cassie and Diddy, and also Christina Coram and Diddy. And I think they were showing this text message between Christina Coram and Diddy because Diddy was basically saying that he didn't want Brendan Paul to set up any Wild King nights. And I think they were trying to say, "Oh, look, Brendan Paul didn't really set these up anyway because Diddy didn't want him to. That's why his testimony wasn't, anything jaw-dropping." But the ones between Cassie and Diddy, we had seen some of these before, but it was her just basically saying that she doesn't like getting pulled by the hair when he's high or he decides he wants to show his power. And then the defense had argued that they wanted to get in some more context because they had said the government was misleading the jury by not including where Cassie said, "I love to FO when we both agree." So that came into play, or it was, "I love our FOs when we both agree." Um, yeah. So then we got to the last witness, and he will be the last witness in the government's case. Special Agent for HSI Joseph Cerciello, who actually works in the Joint Terrorism Task Force, but he was specifically only working on this case to review the charts and evidence against all of the exhibits that the trial team had entered into evidence for this case. So it's a little mundane. The jury was yawning and kind of checking the clock. But this time around, we're looking at all the correspondences that really have to do with the Jane era. So we're seeing flights for Jane, different escorts, correspondences from Cowboys and Angels, phone records. Again, phone records between Diddy and escorts, and Cash App payments actually between Diddy and different escorts. And we saw some more room damages. And there were some notes there with these room damages. One was at the London hotel. There was bodily fluids on the wood floor. That's what the note said. Another one was they had cited towels were soaking in baby oil. And then another one was it was just about 6K in damages. And this was the hotel, another hotel in Miami, the Bal Harbour Hotel. So that was pretty much it for today. Again, a half day, but the government should rest their case and end the day on Monday with the testimony of Special Agent Joseph Cerciello. So we'll see what happens. Thanks everyone for listening to this update.